Good morning, everyone. Karen Eiton here. Today we're going to be talking about the bobbin case on the Singer 281-1 machine. And I pulled the bobbin case out, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it. So this is the bobbin case. This is the little arm that you hold on to when you put the bobbin in there and insert it into the bobbin cage below. And this little bar right here, this is actually your tension bar, okay? So this is where your thread gets hooked into that little area right there. You can see it right there, the little hole. And your thread, when you drop your bobbin in this case, it's like the number 6, like your thread goes down and it's like a 6, right? So you drop it in there, your thread is here, and it goes in this little slit right here. And then you pull it to where it goes underneath this little tension piece of metal right here, and then it comes out in that little hook right there, that little hole right there, right? And then you pull your bobbin out. So sometimes you have your bobbin, and put it in here. So it's in here like the number 6, goes in that little slit there. You pull it so it goes down into that metal. It clicks into that little circle there. Then you want to hold the bobbin case and not the bobbin itself, and to see how much tension is on your bobbin, right? So it should flow with a little bit of ease, but also a little bit of resistance, right? It's that you don't want it tight and you don't want it too loose. So if it is too tight and it's not pulling out of the case very well, you can loosen this little screw. This screw here is tinier. This screw is to actually hold on that piece of metal. This screw is a little bit larger than that one, and the larger one is the one you want to unscrew. So you unscrew that just a little bit. Now I have a little machine screwdriver here, and sometimes it is a little bit too thick to go in that curve of that little screw. This one is okay. So you just back off on it. So I'm turning it to the left. I'm backing off on it a little bit. And then it will flow even more freely, right? So it just depends on what your machine is doing, but that's how you loosen it. Now, if you have it to where it's too tight, then you want to tighten it back up. So I'm going to put it back to where it was because I think it was just, whoopsie, just about right. And if you don't have a little tiny screwdriver like this one, because it's very hard to find one that fits down in that screw, I use my X-Acto knife for everything. So I put my X-Acto knife on there and I just turn it. And my X-Acto knife can do it, right? Because it's a very thin blade. So I'm turning it back to where it was. So it's not too tight and it's not too loose, right? Flows freely. And then when you go to put your bobbin back in there, you want to make sure that this bar is what you're going to be holding on to. This little door right here. This little, kind of like a little, a little cupboard door or whatever. You're going to hold on to that. But in the meantime, you don't want your thread to just go anywhere. So you want to hold on to your thread. So I hold on to my thread. You see it's in my hand right here. I have it in my hand. I have the thread, and then I hold on to the bobbin case like this. And so then when I go to put it in my machine, I go in there, and then I put it in, and then I turn it back and forth to make sure that it's locked in, right? So I'm going to put it in now. You can hear it click, right? So I go back and forth with it after the door is closed, after I closed it, and then go back and forth with it in the cage and just make sure that it is really in there. And then you just go ahead and, I don't have the camera on now, but you just go ahead and take your thread, move the camera just a little bit here, you can maybe see what I'm doing. So I hold on to this thread, the top thread, and then I pull up and it loops up the bottom thread, right? And so I have both pieces of thread. There we go. So 2 pieces of thread, and then you just only need it, 4 inches long or so, and then just cut it off. And I did have a garbage over here, but I don't. And the thing about this machine is when you go to clean it, or you go to, work on the bobbin case, or take off these screws here on your throat plate to clean it and stuff, always have some paper towel with you, because even taking out the bobbin case, my hands got full of oil, right? Because this is an oil bath, so you have oil below this machine. And it sits in that oil, so every time you go to clean it or you go to change the bobbin, sometimes there's a chance that you'll get oil on your hands. So you want to have some sort of a rag. I kind of hang a rag sometimes on my machine leg, and so I can use that to wipe my hand on, especially if I'm sewing something, right? And then you want to always make sure that that you watch for oil, and you wipe around your machine before you even start sewing anything, because sometimes it can leak a little oil here and there. I know mine used to leak here where the gasket was not sealed real good, and it kind of stopped now, but it was doing that. And sometimes if I run it a lot, my oil gauge in the front of my machine will drip a little bit, and it'll get a little oily. So you want to have, some sort of a paper towel or something that you can constantly, wipe off and things, so you don't, make sure that you don't get oil on any fabrics or garments. So that's, that's about all I really wanted to, talk to you about today. Someone put in a request to talk about the bobbin case. I hope that clears it up for you. And then if it's, if your thread pulls out and it's way too tight, loosen it. If it pulls out too much and it's just going, then maybe it's too tight or too loose. So then you'll want to tighten it. So either way, you want to tighten it if it's too loose, and then loosen it if it's not loose enough and kind of flowing freely. You don't want it to be really loose, because when you sew, your top thread is what is your bobbin case, your bobbin thread, right? And your top thread that you sew is on the bottom of what you sew. So it's just the opposite of what you would think. But you want to make sure that it's not like, if your bobbin case is too loose when you sew, it's going to be looping up at the top of your fabric, right? So then you'll want to tighten your case. If it's too tight, it's going to be pulling the stitches too tight down underneath. It's going to be pulling it down, and it's going to be too tight. You want it to just be an even process. You wanted the top thread and the bobbin thread to work together and be just an even process. So you don't want one too tight or too loose, because it won't make your stitching look nice. So you can tell by your stitching and how it stitches, right? And you can also tell by, once you sew something and you're pulling the thread out to try to cut the thread off, if it's pulling way too tight from underneath, from the bottom, you know that it's too tight. So then you can go back and loosen that little screw. Remember, it's the bigger screw compared to the little one. The little one is what holds on that piece of metal bar, right? That the thread goes underneath. So you want to make sure that you loosen or tighten the one that's a little bit on the larger side. So I think that kind of clears it up. So if you have any more questions, just go ahead and put a comment below. I'd be happy to, make a special video for you, or, show you something that you want to learn or something like that. So you can always reach out to me. And I hope you all have an amazing day. Thank you so much for following me. Make sure to subscribe to this channel if you like the content that I share here. I'll be sharing more and more as I go along. So thank you so much, and I'll talk to you all real soon. Bye-bye now.